Ferrari have just unveiled what might just be one of the most interesting and aggressive approaches that we have seen yet to the 2022 regulations. So today we are going to take a look at their brand new F1-75, its livery and then some of its technical details. Let's do this. Okay, so here we have it, the brand new Ferrari F1-75. Now I must admit it's pretty weird that they have gone with the F1 name and not the SF something name, but even still I really like the design of this car. It really is a real big throwback to some of the Ferraris in the 90s, so if you remember those cars driven by Alan Prost, it really gives me some throwback to those cars with the black rear and front wing, and I really like the design of this car. Now if we see here in the renders, I really enjoy the design of the car. I think they really nailed it, and the only thing that I would improve in this car is that I would make this paint glossy. So even though it looks glossy in some of these pictures, this is definitely matte paint, so I would put this car glossy and then it would be a 10 out of 10. But something I really don't enjoy is the way the numbers are in black. I think that the numbers in white would be a very nice touch. But even with the numbers in black, I really enjoy the design of this car. So I cannot wait to see this car out on track. I think it will look amazing, and especially in those night races where the Ferrari always shines, I think it will look amazing. Okay, but now that we have talked a little bit about the Ferrari's livery, let's actually talk about its technical details, because there are a lot of them. Now I'm using this picture here that was created by Craig Scarborough, which is one of the most renowned technical journalists that's around, and he always has a very good eye to spotting details on the car, so this picture was created by him immediately after seeing the Ferrari launch. So there are a lot of technical details that are very interesting, coming especially from the front wing of the car, which is very different from some other cars that we have seen, but also in those side pods. Just look at the way in which those side pods are sculpted. This angle is really amazing to me, because we haven't seen other teams try to do this, and this just shows us that when Ferrari were telling us that they were going to be aggressive, they weren't joking. And if this is just the show car, the version 1.0 if you want to call it, I cannot imagine what they are going to bring to Bahrain. Okay, but starting to take a look at the nose of the car, unlike some other teams which were trying to have a nose like this and then have the front element separated from the nose, Ferrari has a very different nose cone that's a little bit like what they had in 2021, with the narrowing of the nose cone here at the front, and it's the first nose cone design that we have seen like this. And we also have this bottom part of the rear wing that's attached to this nose cone instead of having that slot right here that most other teams have. And this is a very interesting front wing design. Now, just like other teams, it looks like they are using these front wing adjustment flaps to create a vortex right here. So as this is a sharp edge coming into contact with the airflow, this is creating a vortex, and this is something that the Formula 1 designers probably didn't want teams to do, but it's something that we are finding in every single car, so it seems that all the teams have found this little loophole. Okay, but taking a look at the front wing, it looks like Ferrari is trying to load most of the front wing with downforce generating components. So instead of having a curve like other teams, it seems like they are loading every single part of the front wing, with the exception of this outboard part right here, which is probably trying to create some outwash. And this tells me that Ferrari are trying to generate a lot of downforce through the front wing instead of using a lot of its section to route air to some other places. Now, what I found most interesting about this front end is that the front wing is actually pretty low to the ground when you compare it to cars like the Aston Martin, but it's also actually pretty loaded. So I'm wondering how they are putting the airflow that they need in the floor and in the entry of those Venturi tunnels, because you either have some unloaded part of the wing or you have a raised front wing in order for the air to go to the Venturis. But I'm sure that they have found a pretty good solution to do this with the front wing airflow, and this is also one of the narrowest noses that we have seen in the Formula 1 2022 car. So if you look at other cars when compared to the Ferrari, this nose is much narrower, so they are really pushing the limits of what they probably can do to pass the crash tests, and this is a very interesting geometry from Ferrari. Okay, but now actually taking a look at those side pods, they are trying to do some very interesting things with these side pods. So firstly, we see that they are using the Aston Martin approach to the side pod cooling, so they are using these cooling louvers right here, and the back end of of the car is actually pretty much glued to the gearbox casing. So this means that they're venting out the hot air from the radiators through these louvers right here, instead of having it get out of the back like we have seen in other cars. And yet again, this is another completely distinct design for 2022 cars, and there's no mistaking the Ferrari for other cars, so there's a lot of variation. Okay, so Ferrari with their floor are trying to create the same undercut effect right here, which is trying to speed up the air in this bottom portion of the car in order to have the diffuser work harder because of the fast moving air above it. So this is a pretty standard solution in all of the 2022 cars, and we are seeing a lot of teams converge to this design. Okay, but now let's actually take a look at the top portion of the floor, which is definitely one of the most interesting parts of the Ferrari. So with this top portion of the floor, they are trying to create a very clever airflow structure, in my opinion, to direct the air directly to the beam wing. So if you don't know, I've talked it about yesterday, the beam wing is this airflow structure right here that you can see in this picture, which is this kind of mini rear wing that's mounted to the bottom part of the rear wing end plates. So what this will do, it will produce more downforce, but it's not always very obvious how you are going to get air directly to the beam wing. So you can see that with Ferrari's design, the airflow outside the side pod is going to be directed directly to the beam wing. Now I'm wondering what kind of performance Ferrari actually found with this side pod geometry, because I just think that this is something that it will be unique to the Ferrari and not something that the other teams are trying to hide but also have, because this is a pretty fundamental part of the design of the side pod, and I just think that especially the teams that have shown us their real cars, just like Aston Martin, McLaren, etc., don't have the possibility to implement this solution, because this is a pretty fundamental change to the way in which the radiator is positioned and the cooling of the entire car itself. So this is a solution that I'm expecting to be unique to the Ferrari, and it's a solution that's trying to direct the airflow again to the beam wing and maybe even to the rear wing or to the top portion of the diffuser. So definitely the most interesting aspect of the Ferrari is this side pod, and I'm wondering if this solution is going to put them ahead of other teams. And now this solution just tells me that, you remember a few months ago they were telling us that they have found some very aggressive designs in their car. They were probably expecting all of the other cars, just like we have seen, to have this flat section right here, and then Ferrari comes up with this scoop right here, which is trying to direct the air more cleanly towards the back of the car. And I just think that this is a very interesting solution, and I honestly cannot wait to see if it works, because if it does, this compared with our narrow nose, it will probably mean that Ferrari has a very good aerodynamic concept, and I really enjoy seeing Ferrari trying to push the regulations in this way. And just some other things that I've seen in Mr. Scarborough's picture. So you can see that, as I said, the sculptured side pod is trying to direct the top portion of the air towards the beam wing, but we can also see that there's a Cannon cooling exit here. So there's still a little bit of a cooling exit in the back of the car, but most of the cooling exit is going to be done through these cooling louvers. Now we can also see that Ferrari also has a full shark fin, and this makes sense with their past concepts, because they usually are trying to cool the car more with a side pod, so this top roll hoop won't need as big of an air entry, and this means that they can have a big shark fin and a very compact structure around here at the cost of having a little bit of a wider side pod. Now talking a little bit about the Ferrari suspension, it's a traditional push rod, pull rod configuration that we have seen for many years in Formula 1, so they are not trying to change things up with the suspension, and it seems like even with the big diffuser in the back, they found a way to put a pull rod there, so this tells me that they have a very good packaging of their rear suspension. And also another detail that I find to be very interesting that's trying to direct air to the floor is this bottom part of the cake tin right here. So they are trying to create a very interesting airflow structure with this kind of little hidden wing right here and with this bottom part of the cake tin. So this bottom part is probably trying to direct air to the floor, and this top part is probably trying to direct the air towards that undercut that we have here. So this is a very complex car from an aerodynamic standpoint, and it's definitely one of the most interesting car launches that we have seen so far. So that's been it for my first impressions of the brand new Ferrari F1-75. Definitely a very beautiful car with that livery, and definitely the most interesting technical concept that we have seen so far. So I'm very interested to see how this car performs on track. But if you guys enjoyed this video, I will also have a playlist right here with all of my coverage on every single car that's been launched for the 2022 season, and every single car that is going to be launched will also have a video in this playlist. So check it out if you guys want to learn more. But that's been it for this video, and I really hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you tomorrow with my Mercedes video. Goodbye!